Okay, I've got here a SnoWay Procontrol wireless controller, and today I'm going to show you how to install the new ButtonWorks keypad repair kit for it, and I'm also going to talk about a new battery. So if you want to install the keypad, what you're going to need is some isopropyl alcohol, and I recommend 90%, and a Q-tip. And we need a decent Phillips screwdriver, no big deal, and that's it. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to show you the battery. Now to get to the battery, just take those two bottom screws out. And what I did was I made a new battery that maximized the power so it would last as long as possible. The original battery was, okay, so once you get the screws out, you just kind of pull it up and back this way, and there's some plastic here that goes under there. So the original battery was 1400 milliamps, and this is 2000 milliamps, which is almost 50% increase in power. Now when you want to get your battery out, there's this plug here, and you don't want to pull on the wires. You want to grab on the side of it and kind of wiggle it back and forth. Yep. If you're just doing the battery, obviously it's just take out the battery. Now what I did was originally there was a large black foam pad here, and I pulled that out pretty quickly because this is the thickest battery I could get that would fit in here, and that's why there's an increase in the storage capacity. So I took that black foam piece out and I put a little piece in the center here. So you can either cut a section off of the original one, or because it was easy to come off and it retained its stickiness, or I might include this little pad here if I think it's important enough. And the problem with the original one was it was large and it went over these ridges, which just added a little more height to everything. So the new one goes inside the ridges, and it's still taller than the ridges. And it's just to keep it from rattling and stuff. So anyway, if you're just doing the battery, plug that in, put the screws back in, you're all set. Now for the keypad, and this is going to fix all the buttons in here, we just got to take out all the screws. So there's two more up at the top. Now these screws, I noticed, aren't going to last very long. Like if you have to take this thing apart, put it back together, it's very easy to strip out these screws. So I wouldn't use a powered screw gun or anything like that, because it will be that much easier to strip the plastic out. If you do strip the plastic out, what I like to do is just put a little bit of super glue in the plastic where it screws in. I mean, that's the easiest thing I can explain for other people to do. And then let that dry, and then the screw can bite into the super glue. You don't want to fill it up. Just put some super glue in there, maybe poke a toothpick so you're not blocking it off. There's still like a little bit of a hole for the screw to bite in. Now these long screws here, again, also into the plastic housing. Don't want to use a powered gun for these. And they are self-tapping. You know, they have a little like cutting blade at the end there. So they'll bite into anything you put into the hole if you even need to. I haven't needed to do it with this one yet. I noticed a lot of plastic came out when I took it apart the first time. Okay. Now I got those two out, and these two weren't coming out easily. They're still kind of they're biting into this side, so it's hard to get them all the way out. And I don't need to, so I'm going to put that aside. Now we have, this is the joystick controller and the radio daughter board. If you have a wired controller, you're still going to have this, but this board will probably be missing. I haven't seen the inside of a wired controller yet. But this is just, there's no screws once we've gotten all the housing apart. It's just held in on the plug on the side, and you can actually see all the pins sticking up through holes here. So I'm going to just kind of like wiggle that board while pulling slightly on it until it comes off. And we're going to set that aside. And then we have this plastic stand which just sits here, goes over, you know, there's a couple little pieces here that go around that plug, and then there's 4 pins that line up with those 4 screws we just took off. So now there are 4 places for screws here, but I assume they all come this way, but this one only had 3, so it wasn't in that one. It doesn't really matter, I guess, if you put it... Maybe if you strip this one out, I would just... Well, you know what? They didn't put it in here because it was so close to that component. So they purposely left it out for that reason after the design was made. So I'm going to take these screws. Now I already installed the button repair kit in here, so when we take this apart, there's already going to be a repair kit in there. This doesn't replace anything. It's an additional part. Go. So let's just pretend that wasn't there. Now, when you open it up, you got your rubber keypad with it's got all these little tiny dots on it, and lights are in the board to go through the rubber keypad. And then we got the repair kit. And the repair kit is just, you just place it in here. Now it's got like the smooth side, and then over here there's holes cut out with spacers for these buttons. So to line it up right, you don't want to put it upside down. You can see here that this side has an extra button on the bottom, and that keypad has the extra button there. So just place it down so that all the buttons are covered. And then it's very important, if you're having button problems, you want to clean all these gold rings with isopropyl. And you're probably not going to be super dirty, but you want to clean them anyway. So we want to just wet a Q-tip and just go over those. And if you do have one, like you had a really hard time with the power button and you can see it's dirty, you know, just spend a little bit more time on that one. But go over like that. And then when we put this together, your original rubber keypad will push down on the repair pad. The repair pad conductive dots will touch the circuit board. And these never wear out. So I've tested these over 1 million button presses. You can hit them with sandpaper. They don't ooze oil. They block oil or dirt if the keypad or anything gets through. So they work much better. Now when we're putting this back together, the LCD is kind of tight fit up here. So you want to kind of go at an angle a little bit, like that. Start at the top and just kind of push down. Yeah. And while it's open like this, I want to show you this. This little thing here, right here, is a battery. And I tested this one. It was totally dead. I assume that this is a battery to keep the programming, keep your clock and your macros saved for when you disconnect, replace your battery, or if your battery goes really dead, that would keep it going. So this one's dead, so anytime you unplug the battery, you lose all the programming. It does remember the link to your receiver base, so it's just the clock and macros, I believe. So anyway, the new keypad's in there. So we just got to put those 3 screws back in. And again, I had trouble, like the yellow plastic is not that robust. So if you over tighten these, it will start just ripping the plastic out. So I would just turn them until it starts to get hard to turn and stop. Yeah. Okay. Now if this has come off, it might have come off and stayed down in there when you took it apart. And you just put it back on. There's a hole there. Put it back on the joystick. And now we got to put this. This can get a little tricky. Actually, I'm going to go grab a toothpick. So this is a little tricky to put back together because this thing can just wiggle around, and you got to put this on, and then you got to put the back housing on before you can start those screws, and everything can shift around a little bit. So I'm just going to put that in place, and then the joystick board goes over. And we want to make sure those pins on the side are all lined up correctly. And then when you start to put it back in, yeah, you can actually look and you see them all there. So if you got it like off a row, you'd only see, there'd be 1 row empty. So that's a good way of checking. Okay, so now You can kind of use the toothpick to push these around, that stand, the black standoff, to get them in the right spot. And then when I'm putting this back on, there's a couple plastic tabs up there that fit in some slots. That's the hardest part about that, is just getting those lined up and pushed down. And then you can use the toothpick to try to keep those posts in the right place. Now these two screws I have raised up and they weren't, I don't want to put those down first because I'm not 100% sure that black standoff isn't lined up right. So I'm going to put these in, or one of these. I'll just twist it down, and if it just stops going down at some point, you probably aren't lined up with that black standoff. Okay, now when I'm putting those 4 screws in, again, make sure you hand tighten them and don't over tighten them. And the plastic doesn't always fit nice together, so I can see there's like a plastic tab inside and outside, and it's got a sandwich in between there. So I'm just going to push a little there to help that go down a little bit. I'm going to apply some pressure while I tighten these up a little bit more. Okay, we have 4 short screws left, and I'm just going to put the battery back in. One side of the plug's rounded. You can look in and see the rounded is on the top. Put that in, and then this slides in above the board, below the housing. Make sure the wires aren't pinched anywhere. That goes down there. Also, this one also has, yeah, there we go, click down. Yeah. Now, before I tighten those 4 screws down, I'm just going to make sure everything looks good, everything works good. The joystick isn't, stuck or anything. The buttons are all look good. Go ahead and turn it on. It's a little annoying because it'll keep warning you that you can't find a base. But to test a couple buttons, I can hold the macro key down and wait for the macro thing to start, and then you can just click some buttons and you see the numbers change, so you know that's working. You can also move the joystick and see the numbers change. It'll go up to 10 and then it'll stop you. It's macro boarded, or if you want to bring it out to your plow, you wouldn't have that annoying no receiver thing. And so that's it. And then we're just going to put those last 4 screws in. Turn this off. And now your buttons will work much better, and the battery will last. Brand new battery. Yeah, lithium batteries only have, they typically last 5, maybe 7 years. Even if they're hardly used at all, they still just wear out from time. Where other batteries like the old nickel metal hydride would have a shelf life, much better shelf life, but then they die quicker from actual use. So that's it. It's the new battery and keypad.